Hello and welcome to Food for Thought. I'm Ramona Singh, and it's always great to have this time with you. And today we're actually going to do a continuation of last week's show, which was about the top 10 ways to stay happy. So essentially overall it will be the top 20 ways, because this is part 2. As last week we talked about 10 ways between myself and group editor Yudhvir Jaswal, his 5 ways and my 5 ways of staying happy. And I would say that we couldn't agree more in terms of sharing our own with each other, and it's so great to have this conversation with you. So I'm going to welcome him. Yudhvir Jaswal, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Ramona ji, for inviting me on the show today. It's always a pleasure. It's always so nice to be with you on the show. And today, yeah, you said it right. Last week we did discuss the top 10 ways. An interesting part was, I was discussing earlier as well, that in our top 10 points, how to stay happy, what's our secret to happiness, you know, and your 5 and my 5 were very different. Actually, they were all different. There was not even a single overlap, but yes, I did agree with almost all your 5 points that you made. They were amazing, great points. Let's see if my 5 points and your 5 points are, any of that is an overlap today or not, or else, you know, we've named this show, as you were just mentioning, the top 10 ways to stay happy. It will become 20, but let's see if there is an overlap or not. What do you say?
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to start off with, my first one. I think it's quite important, and I learned this actually as I'm a course junkie, as I mentioned in the previous conversation we had, is that I take a lot of different courses, and I, read a lot, and I join conferences, and whether it's in Zoom or in person, I love it. I would be happy to do it, once a week and just have that continuous. I learned so much. And one of the things I learned, quite some time ago, is understanding what definitions do you give to things. So what is a definition for love? What is a definition for happiness? So if I were to ask you, what does happiness mean to you? And when do you feel happy? You would give yourself, the criteria of that I would feel happy if it's, with these scenarios. Now, the main issue is, and the trick is to actually, why not expand the different ways you would feel happy. So if I were to say to you that I feel happy if it's 30 degrees weather and it's clear sky, and I can get into my car and be able to, go to my favorite place and have my favorite meal and be around the most favorite people and, go to a beautiful, restaurant, and then afterwards go to a place where I'm entertained and I can laugh like I'm falling off my chair. If I were to say that is what happiness means to me, or if I were to get a really expensive gift and it's something I really, really wanted and I'm able to get it and enjoy it, maybe I say those are my, that's what makes me happy. But that would be so limiting, because then it would depend on that 30-degree weather, then it would depend on that excellent, restaurant that I go to, and that the chef would make it exactly the same way I remembered it, or whatever those scenarios are. So really, what you should think about is, how about you expand what I just listed was like maybe 4 different things. How about you make it 20 things? How about you make it 50 things? How about you make happiness that you have, if you love coffee and I actually started making cappuccino at home, and it's so good. I bought the Italian mocha, where you're able to like brew it, and then just like a very good Italian, what do you call it, to be able to make a cappuccino espresso. And I just do the entire thing and I froth it myself. And when I have this cup, it's like the most wonderful feeling. I'll sit down and I'll enjoy like the smell, the aroma, even the process of making it. See, that makes me happy. So what I decided to do is I decided to make simple things that make me experience joy and happiness. And so it's a process, and you can do that with love. You can do that with literally anything. Multiply it. Don't limit it and say, if these criteria exist, well, how often are those criteria going to happen? If you can actually choose every a day simple things that would make you happy or feel love or joy, your world would absolutely change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on this one, because if you're attaching your happiness to anything, if you're attaching your happiness to anything or any outcome, then you're limiting your time for happiness. Happiness is like, as I was discussing earlier as well, happiness should be a continuous flow. You are a happy person forever. If you're attaching your happiness to weather, if you're attaching your happiness to I'll be sitting in a restaurant, if you're attaching your happiness to I'll get some gift, if you're attaching your happiness to any materialistic thing or anything, then you will always wait for that outcome to be happy. But if that's what we said in the previous show as well. What do you have to do to be happy? Stay happy. And how do you stay happy? With all the things that we discussed previously, and I'm sure we're going to discuss that right now. And for happiness, another aspect that I strongly believe, I'll give my first point, and I'm sure you still have to start your first point too, right?
That was my first point.
That was your first point? Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay, that was your first point.
Yes.
Okay, so expand it.
Was it not a good first point?
No, it's a thought.
No, I'm kidding.
It was like an umbrella. It covered so many different aspects. Yeah,
true.
But I couldn't agree more on this one. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you have to expand. I mean, you cannot attach certain things to your. So I didn't get the one word because I was looking, because usually in the last thing we always attach.
Yeah,
one
have
word.
a word. I didn't have a word for this one.
Okay, that's
maybe
fine.
Yeah, I didn't have a word.
You didn't have a word. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but this is a good point. And interestingly, we still haven't overlapped as of now. As much as this is an amazing point that you just made. I like that point. Yeah. And my first point, before I go into my first point, I would want to add this, that I have a very strong belief that, you have a blessings bank. Very strong. And that blessings bank will give you happiness. I have a very strong, firm belief on this one. I love this one. And that makes me happy if I have that blessings bank. You could call it that, yes, anything that I do in my life, I always see, where is my blessings bank right now? Is it good enough? Will it give me happiness or not? So anyways, my first point, so all that I'm going to tell right now, it'll all basically come to this, it'll lead to this one, blessings bank. So number one, I'm in the 6th point now. My 6th point is sharing. And I found so much happiness in sharing, because I reached a point, I said, everything is fine. I have this was about, as I was discussing in a previous show as well, about 10 years ago, when I started, knowing myself. You said we did a show on how to love yourself, but then I asked, even before we love ourselves, my journey wasn't how to love yourself. No, I had no clue how to love yourself. My question was knowing myself. I wanted to know myself, and what do I want in my life? What makes me happy? I wanted to know all that. So in quest for knowing myself, bringing more awareness, listening to Buddhaji, looking at people around me, my wife, my parents, and everyone, and during that quest I found, and what brings happiness to me, I should know. Most of the time I know, I have very good clarity of thought. But at this, around 10 years ago, I wanted to know, I was around 39 at that time. So I wanted to know what would really make me happy in next 10, 15, 20. So from 39, I said, I don't want that. At 60, I said, no, this is, because I have planned my life like that. So one thing which I found gives me so much happiness, that is sharing. And sharing doesn't necessarily mean that you need to wait for, you have $1 million in your bank, or a $500 million or $1 billion in your bank. And a generous heart, it has got nothing to do with you doing financially well. I'll give you a quick example. Who has the most generous heart in this world? Who has the most generous heart in this world? A mother. And it is not at all tied to anything financial or any materialistic thing. A mother is sharing, giving, loving the kid all the time. That is what can be our inspiration as well. So I found so much happiness in sharing. And as I've already mentioned, it doesn't necessarily has to be anything related with finance, money, or anything. Sharing gave me the maximum happiness that I could ever think of. So sharing is my next word. If you start practicing, and I started practicing it now. So and remember one thing, if anyone is asking for anything to share, people have financial challenges many times. If anybody is saying that, if at all you can do that, if at all you can do that, remember, this is God's sent message to say, Yudhvir Jaswal, we want to bless you. Don't look at that person. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. Yudhvir Jaswal, this is a God sent opportunity. Your blessing banks, I want to fill in some blessings in there. That's what will keep you happy. The blessings will keep you happy. So sharing is very important for me.
Yeah, I actually learned that from you, the blessings one, because I would sometimes do things without an expectation of anything in return. But I wasn't thinking about the blessing I'm getting. I was just doing it because I felt like I should or and I wanted to. And that's part of actually how to stay happy. Being helpful is actually one of mine, that when I'm helpful to someone or some cause or something, it actually makes me happy. And that I could share, and it really piggybacks from you, because I'm sharing something, whether it's my time, knowledge, whatever it is, you know, money, anything, any of those things, it's being helpful to a person or a scenario or situation. And I never used to think about it as, oh, I'm going to get blessings out of it. And until you shared this in a previous conversation that we were talking about, and you said, you know, it's the blessings bank, as you're saying right now. So now I'm actually mindful of it. Like, I'm like, oh, this would be a blessing. And so even though it's the same act, same scenario, same intention, because I'm being helpful and I'm enjoying it, but now I'm like, oh, that's a blessing.
It is actually, and I have a very strong belief, it's a very strong conviction that yes, everything what is happening in our lives is basically a net sum of the blessings. Of course, people may not like you, they could be jealous of you, they could even curse you or think whatever, but at the end of the day, if your bank or your blessings bank is good enough, things will happen really good for you. And it's not even, you know, this is just a small way to motivate yourself. It's not that blessing bank, okay, if blessing bank wasn't there, I won't do this thing. You just said that, right? You were already doing all this, and you're already practicing all this, but it's just more motivation, more, you know, training your mind and practicing it, that yes, blessing, it's a blessing. So that is where, and sharing has to be done, you know, when we say sharing, if it has to be done with this thinking that this is an opportunity for you. Whenever you're sharing anything, it's not an opportunity for the other person. Any sort of sharing. Because as I already said, you know, it has got, a generous heart has got nothing to do with what you have. No, it could be anything. Sharing a pen, sharing anything. Anything, sharing financially, sharing anything, or even, you know, sharing your happiness. Someone is happy, they want to share that happiness.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and being helpful. But mine was helpful, so it's your turn.
Yeah. Oh, second was your helpful?
Yes.
Okay, being helpful. Okay. I thought you were just using the word.
No, it reminded me of the other stuff because you said sharing as well. But yeah, helpful. And I find that even when, let's just say when you're in a challenging situation, because you're in your own head and you're on your own circumstances. So when you step outside of it and you help someone else out, you can expand your world, then you'll realize whatever you were feeling challenged about or that scenario isn't really that big of a deal in comparison.
Yeah, actually helpful was my actually 8th one. So here's one overlap now. Yeah. So, but I'll say my 7th point, and then I'll go to my 8th. Maybe or I'll say the 8th one first now, because you already used the helpful. Like. So then I'll go to my 7th one later on. But yeah, helpful. Yes, that was my 8th point. I couldn't agree more on this one, because I just said sharing. Sharing is like, okay, if someone shows up or I practice it. Right? This is a practice. So what's the difference between sharing and being helpful? Being helpful as much as it is in your nature, but I ask a simple question. Are you helpful enough? There are floods ravaging at so many different places right now. People need food, so many other things. So there are people who go out there and they are really helpful. They're doing something. So I ask this to myself, am I doing anything right now? Okay, then we say Russia and Ukraine, there's a war going on. Okay, we could all say, well, there's a war going on. We could all say 10 different things. But we're talking how to be happy. There is a war going on. Now, what do you do? So I tell myself, you know what? If anything, there are so many news. Being in media, we read so many news. And many times when the news are coming, what happens is that, yes, I read those news. We could either get frustrated, or we could, you know, we could get frustrated, or our mood is down, or my reaction to that is, how can I be helpful with people around me? So I motivate myself, I have to be helpful. There are people who need help here in Canada. There are people, wherever you are right now, you're in India, you're in Pakistan, you're in Europe, you're in Australia. There are people who need you. Yes, I'll discuss the news, but if I waste half an hour or an hour on discussing you know, the issues in China, the issues in India, the issues in Pakistan, the war in Middle East, the war in Africa, the drug cartel. Yes, I'll discuss that. But how can I be helpful? So I have to act on that one. So my reaction to that, and that makes me happy. That makes me happy. I said, yeah, there are things beyond my control. I'm just a drop in this ocean. What can I do? I mean, can I stop a war between Russia and Ukraine? Maybe not. But then how can I be helpful? How can I do my part? And that makes me happy. That's why being helpful is very important for me.
Yeah, because you're uplifting other people that you can reach.
Yeah, and not only that, with due respect, I'm saying this, like being in media, I get calls off the air. And many times being helpful simply means that, yes, you're getting calls off the air. You listen to those calls and see if you can do something. Again, it's a knock on the door, an opportunity God has sent us that you could be helpful. So that will be my 7th one, now your 8th one.
Okay, mine is, and this is, all of it is important. And, I think we're just almost limiting ourselves with giving ourselves a short number of items to keep us happy. But it's forgiveness, and forgiveness literally for the entire thing. And that, again, ties into the first one I talked about last week, which is about, making peace with things. And that comes with actually forgiving. Forgiving yourself is one of the utmost things. I think it's sometimes easier. And it's actually, if you think about it, we will easily and more willingly help someone else before we can help ourselves. Because if, for example, if you wanted to do something, you had a goal in mind, and you're like thinking, how do I start it? How do I figure it out? But as soon as you have a loved one come to you and say they have a goal, you could probably list 5, 10 different things and sit next to them and get going, and really jumpstart it. And that's always, whenever it's for someone else, it's so much easier. And when it's for yourself, and same thing goes for forgiveness, right? Like we always focus on how do we forgive, someone else in a situation or ask for forgiveness. But then you realize that when you feel guilt or shame or any of those really low vibrational feelings, then, it's really comes from the fact that you probably haven't forgiven yourself for something you said or did, or something you didn't say or you didn't do, whatever the case is. And the way I make peace with that and forgive myself is I say, first, there's the action of actually forgiving, but also I say to myself, if I knew better, I would have done better in that scenario. Sometimes you just don't have the hindsight, or you just don't have the understanding in that time. And maybe let's just say in that scenario you did have the understanding, you just chose not to. Then it's a learning opportunity for you to, when that situation arises again or something similar, that you now, rise to the occasion and do what you know better to do. And, and I truly, truly believe that the universe definitely rewards the people who are courageous. So courageous enough to forgive yourself, courageous enough to forgive others, courageous enough to ask for forgiveness. And there's always a belief that if you forgive somebody, that means you're saying it's okay for what they did. Perhaps what they did was so hurtful to you, or not, in your boundaries. They crossed your boundaries of self-respect. But there's a difference. You can forgive a situation that occurred. It doesn't necessarily mean you're saying it's okay, please do it to me again, or let me do it to myself again when you forgive yourself. You're just forgiving that act. And that's very important. And you've got to let it go, because if you don't, then you're living in that prison of your own mind, and you're handicapping yourself in terms of being able to really enjoy your life, and you're getting stuck. You got to be fluid. You got to be flexible. You got to let it go.
Yeah. This was my 9th one.
Okay.
So since you mentioned forgiveness, so I'll move my 8th to the 9th, and I'll use this forgiveness. First of all, I'll quote Buddha ji here. And Buddha ji says, who deserves forgiveness the most in your life? Who? You. If someone is most deserving of your forgiveness in your life, it's you. So forgive yourself. So move on. Sometimes we have that guilt. We keep on holding to that guilt. Yes, you will still get chances to improvise, to better in life. But what has been done, that has been done in the past. So if you keep on holding that guilt, you don't forgive yourself, you will not be able to move on. Because having that guilt will not let you move any further. Forgiveness, that's one point. Second is forgiving others. Sometimes people say it's very easier said than done. No, it's not. If you start practicing forgiveness, forgiveness is the biggest source of happiness. And this is one thing that I really try to practice forgiveness a lot. And when we say forgiveness, I say 3 points here. First of all, who am I to forgive? Who am I? I'm asking pardon from Lord every day. I'm asking forgiveness. I want God to be kind on me. I do so many mistakes, but I'm asking for forgiveness, for God to be kind. So am I kind enough to others? And sometimes people say, okay, forgive that person, God will do the justice. No. I'll never say God will do the justice. No. Who am I to? That means I'm still seeking a sort of revenge for that.
Yeah, you just want God to do it.
You want God to do it. No, God will do the justice. No. When I say I'm not the anyone to forgive them, no. And God will also forgive them. And as a matter of fact, I pray. I'll again use your prayer. Yeah. I am sorry. I'm sorry. That person might have done wrong to me, but I'm saying, I am sorry for feeling even for a second that I have to forgive you or you've done something wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me, because I am in no position to forgive anybody. No, I'm not God, I'm not a judge here. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me, right? I have to say that. And thank you, sir. And thank you, ma'am. And I love you. I'm loving you. I want all the best for you. I'm not seeking any justice. You've done wrong to me. Thank you. Be my guest. I'm saying that aloud here on record, on TV. If anyone does anything wrong to me, anybody can hold me accountable for this one. I'm putting it on record. I will never say I want anything wrong to be done to them. I'll forgive them. And in the interest of time, I could cite at least 30 to 40 examples that I've read from the history where amazing instances, and I'm not saying this one is the best, but I'm just using one in the interest of time, if you allow me.
Absolutely.
The girl's name is Avantika Makhan. And I've read many stories on this one. And it's amazing. It's again, forgiveness is a great source of, by the way, happiness. It's a great source of happiness. The girl's name is Avantika Makhan. What happened? A guy named Cookie Gill, for political reasons or whatever, will not go into that side. Cookie Gill, he shot dead her parents, Avantika Gill's parents in Delhi, shot dead. Now, actually, they wanted to, he and other assailants, they wanted to, target Avantika's father, Mr. Makhan. But since the wife came and she was trying to protect the husband, so she also got shot, and both of them were shot dead. Now, here is a girl, Avantika Makhan. Her parents have been shot dead by this person, Cookie Gill. Do you think Avantika Makhan can ever forgive this person, Cookie Gill? Actually, she did. She did. And there are so many other instances that I can quote. She did. Because forgiveness liberates you. Liberates you. Yes, it does. So, when you're saying, please forgive me, you're actually saying to that person, even if that person has done wrong, please forgive me for even thinking that for a minute. You're thanking that person for allowing you to forgive that person. And you're saying, I love you. Yes, I love you. That is a true reconciliation. That is what a true source of happiness is. That is what is the meaning of forgiveness. So that's why I think forgiveness is a great source of happiness.
Absolutely. And actually, if I may cite this in Christianity, there's a prayer, and you actually just said it, and it's part of it is, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And that's exactly what it means, that I cannot ask you for forgiveness if in my daily life I'm not forgiving other people.
Yes.
Right? So forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Wow.
And it's exactly what you said, and you're absolutely right. So it's such a empowering thing to be able to forgive others and yourself. And we talked about this before, and if you feel slighted by someone, chances are, if you feel like you didn't do anything, but you, like you said in a previous thing that you just said, if some people may hate you, dislike you, or whatever the case is, and let's just say because you're in media and maybe you don't know them personally, but this is how they feel about you, it's important to know that when somebody reacts that way towards you, you're more triggering them about something that's internal for them, and you're the external that triggers them for that emotion to come to surface. So it actually has almost nothing to do with you for whatever it was that triggered them. What it means for them is that it's an opportunity for them to work out that emotion. So if anytime you're around somebody and all of a sudden you get triggered and maybe you just don't like their company, or there's something that there's a resistance, understand that it's not that person. So perhaps don't say anything negative about that person, because then you're committing, a sin, and you're getting yourself caught up in negative emotions. Look at it as that, okay, I'm being triggered by this scenario, what I just heard, what I just saw, whatever it is. There's something inside of me that I have not looked at. So let me look at that. This is an opportunity for me to work it out. And like we said, one of the best ways is to, you make peace with it, you cry, whatever the case, you just gotta let it, you gotta get it out. You can't keep things. You keep things, it'll be like quicksand, it'll drown you. So don't keep any of those things on.
Yeah, and quickly, you made a very good point. I'm just adding quickly onto that one. Like Mahatma Gandhi ji said, hate the sin, not the sinner. But I even don't want to use that word, hate the sin. Why even hate the sin? But just trying to put a point across, hate the sin, not the sinner. Like in this case, the guy Cookie Gill, I've listened to him, I've read his stuff, I've listened to him on TV channels. He's an amazing person right now. I mean, those were the circumstances that he joined a movement, and then during that movement, because of political reasons, he did that. But now he's an amazing person. I mean, many people follow him right now. And here is Avantika Makan, because of the circumstances that she got caught up, her parents had to suffer, and obviously she had to suffer. So it could be the circumstances. We don't know the whole story. So let's not even judge anyone over here. And actually judging was but I couldn't fit it in my top 10, not judging anyone. That's my thing too. That'll give you a lot of happiness as well. But anyways, maybe we'll have, if Monaji allows, we'll have another 10 one for being happy.
Of course.
But yeah, of course we can have that one. But not judging anyone is again that one. But here we are forgiveness, So forgiveness is an amazing way to stay happy, liberate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with that. Mine is a few things coupled together, because it's a process, because I find it's all so interdependent.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is I'm here for, I'm existing for, is that there's things that I'm supposed to learn, experience, and go through all the different processes. And we'll talk about that. I think we're going to talk about what is life in a different episode, in a different conversation. But what I do, and I do this all the time. So I will listen. I will actively listen to what's happening around me. So what someone's saying to me, what I'm observing, if I'm watching TV, the news, if I'm hearing someone else's conversation, if I'm reading something, even if it's a pop-up on my, computer as an advertisement, I'm constantly actively listening, observing what I'm seeing. And observing is not just on a seeing level, but I'm also observing the energy I'm picking up, perhaps, in a scenario. And then I'm allowing myself to feel what it is that I'm observing and what I'm listening. Because I find that life is always giving you a clue. It's always teaching you something. It's always giving you advice or a clue or something for you to have more awareness of in terms of what you need to do next, how you need to feel about a certain situation. And you can't do that unless you're listening. So I actually stopped, when I go for a walk, I stopped putting something in my ears and listening to an audiobook or a podcast or whatever, or music, whatever the case is, because I fully comprehend that I'm here and I got to listen to what my body's saying. I got to listen to what my feelings are coming forward on, like rising up, or what I'm seeing around me, because there's a ton of opportunity to learn, but also it gives me a better understanding of a scenario or what I need to be doing next, because it keeps me not confused, or it declutters in a big way. So if you're ever stuck, you might start practicing this when you're stuck in terms of what I should do next, or what's my next move, or should I do this, should I accept this, should I not? If you stay still long enough and you just are aware, because you're awareness, you're not your mind, like that's a whole nother conversation. You're not your mind, you're awareness of what's happening. and your awareness of where your mind is going, and you need to be able to rein that in, you will get the answer. And I kid you not, there's been times where if you tell me to do something or you suggest something to me, and let's just say you suggest something to me that sounds so bizarre in my in my area of interest, capability, knowledge, but because you suggested it, and let's just say you're somebody also on top of that, I will consider, say, you know what, Veer's not somebody who is a pushy person. If he's making a suggestion, I won't just look at it as that Veer Jaswal is making a suggestion to Ramona. I would look at it as that there's a greater universe that's making a suggestion to Ramona. They were just using you as the conduit, as the vehicle to bring that to my awareness. Now, how lucky am I that you can verbalize in a language that I understand? Sometimes it's not in a language you understand. It'll be like a feeling that will come up, or it'll just be a sense of knowing that will just happen. Or you will hear something, read something, and you're like, you would never have thought about it before, but as soon as you read it or as soon as you hear it, you're like, that's it. So it's about giving yourself that time, and I find that when I follow through, and I always do, because the best things really are the things you least expect or the things you least plan, and it keeps me happy.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. What a nice way to explain that. So would you say this as go with the flow and listen to the messages or
You're being
universes?
fluid. So in a previous episode, we talked about being fluid, being flexible, making peace with things, because you understand that you're in this like vast universe and galaxy and Earth, and that now we're celebrating 8 billion people on Earth, right? By a UN is saying by November 15th, 8 billion people. So we're talking about, we've reached massive milestones. There's so much greater than you and your little thoughts and your little feelings and your little life of the 5 or 10 or 50 people that you know. There's so much more. And that we limit ourselves when we become very rigid with our expectations, with our scenario of what things should mean. And there's so much more that my mind hasn't even learned or doesn't have the capacity to perhaps comprehend, because my mind is as old as me, and that's what's been exposed to. It's nothing more than that. Your soul is expansive. So when I find that and I wrote in this order, I listen, I observe, I feel, I'm giving a chance more for my soul to come to lead me. And whether you call that God, whether you call it your guardian angels or your spirit guides or whatever you want to call it, maybe a past loved one who's passed away, whatever the case is, it will guide you. And yeah, you would have to go with the flow to do things like that. And so I'm very mindful that if I have a suggestion come my way, and that suggestion, if I hear it from 2 different people at the same time, then I'm like, oh, that is probably my next step, or that's probably an area I should learn, that's an area I should, be a little more open to. And it's never led me astray, because my mind didn't think of it. My mind doesn't have the capacity to do that, because my mind's only going to feed me what I taught it, right? This is outside of that, so I appreciate it. Wow. And it gives you so much gratitude.
Wow, that's amazing. Very nice. Very good point. And this is something new that I learned today. Very good point. Yeah. And my next point, this is something new, but this point has been spoken a lot. But I thought, yes, this has helped me, and I'm sure it'll help many. So I thought I'll put here in the top 10. Of course, if you allow, we'll go in the top 20 as well, because I have a lot more other points to share. But this one is like, some people say that, yes, this is what happened, a year ago, 2 years ago, and they're still holding on to their past. But if say, for instance, God comes and they tell them, okay, let's go and fix this in your past. Can we go in our past and fix anything? No, absolutely not. And then there are sometimes we're worried about our future, which is okay. We should plan about our future, but not be worried or too much overthink about that or stressful about that. So because we don't have that future yet right now, and things could change in a moment for us. So I think the best way is hold on to this present moment, enjoy to its fullest. And I always give this example to myself. Now I don't drink that much, but I used to really love, strawberry milkshake. Yeah, and I used to really enjoy every sip of that strawberry milkshake, and wow, I'm enjoying the straw, and and okay, I'm enjoying it here in my mouth, and I hold it on, throw it, and it's going down. I'm enjoying this. So this whole strawberry milkshake, I used to enjoy every bit of it. And this is, now I don't do that, of course, for obvious reasons, but now I've made this as a mantra for my life. Live in the moment. Live in the present. This is all I have. Enjoy every bit of it. Right now I'm doing this show. I'm, for the last 2 or 3 hours, I'm here right now, studio. There was no thought that what's going to happen after I go. That is, okay, leave that. Everything, my schedule is pretty much planned. So that's what my schedule is for. So if my weekly or monthly schedule is planned. So after that, I know what I have to do. Okay, fine. Then why worry? Why think? And live in the moment, because this is all we have. As much cliche as it might sound, but I still wanted to put this point across that yes, this will really help you in getting less worried. Otherwise, we could be fixated on our past, or we could be worrying about future, because everyone knows this. Worrying about your past is only going to depress you, and worrying about your future is only going to make you anxious. So why not make the best possible use about the present? And one of the things which has, other than many things, if I may suggest, one of the things which has really helped me is, playing or watching sports. So whatever you like doing, do that a little bit more often. Because when I'm playing sports, yes, 101%, there's no such thing as 101% though, but I'll still use that, 101% or 100%, what you want to use. When you're playing sports, you're living in the moment, every minute you're there. Or if I'm watching sports, every minute you're there. So, and I've practiced this whenever I'm sitting with my friends, at home, at a restaurant, at their place. I'm enjoying every moment. So that will give you a lot of happiness.
That's so good. And I was actually thinking about what I was saying with my last one, when you're paying attention and you're listening and you're taking all that in, is actually the place where you can also get your creativity from. And we said this in a previous conversation, that Einstein's saying is that creativity is intelligence having fun. And it's true, and I have to tell you, so when it comes to, I said, listen, observe, feel, and it gives you so much gratitude when you can really tap into that. But I observed you having this dimension to your personality, this depth and all of that, because you're just, the news person, stats, figures, history, economics, and all those things, which is great, and you have a great followership for it. And then I saw you in an environment with, your loved ones and people around you, and then there was this different person. So that was my observation, listening, and then that's where the creativity came from. I said, well, you should probably inject a bit of this persona, that you have this dimension to your personality, which now you say is reflective of, your personality serving your soul, in what you do in terms of whether you're on the radio or on TV. And I remember I suggested it, and then I thought, it's probably better I say, let's, do it together, because you were just like, well, it's kind of out of the norm of, what my listeners tune in for, as you were saying.
Yes.
So look at that, and that really came from a place where you can actually listen, observe what's happening around. It's not just the conversation in your head. It's about what's happening around you. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? How can you be, what can you learn from it? And how can you be a part of that? And I would have to say, this show, the creativity aspect of it, the concept really came because of listening, observing, and just seeing what you can learn. And there's so much gratitude that comes from it. So it's always a wonderful surprise. If I intellectually thought of it, perhaps I would be imposing something on you without seeing that it's part of your persona, your personality, your multi-dimensional being. It would have just been pushing something on you. But then I thought, oh, this is where you're very comfortable. This is your nature. And so, yeah, that's what I want to say.
So that's your final point.
No, I was just expanding from my last one.
Okay, thank you so much, first of all. And I must once again acknowledge this thing and admit this thing. Ramona ji, food for thought is one of the best things that has ever happened to my life. It's one of the best things. And honestly, if you wouldn't have observed this, if you wouldn't have recommended this thing, I doubt I would have ever done this. And yeah, I was thinking that yes, I must share my experience. I must bring out who is Yudhvir as a person. But I was very reluctant, very hesitant to do that. And I wasn't even able to figure it out how I should be doing that. But you observed it. And you're right, it was your, intelligence having fun which got out this creativity. Because yes, as you said, Albert Einstein said, this is what creativity is all about, intelligence having fun. So it was your intelligence having fun, but it brought out this creativity of food for thought. And thank you so much. I'm enjoying every bit of it. And to your earlier show that we just did, what do you love about yourself? And I'm connecting with the dot with today. What brings you happiness? So yes, doing food for thought also brings me a lot of happiness, and I love myself for doing this. Thank you so much.
Oh no, my pleasure. You're doing all the heavy lifting yourself.
No, I don't want to take any credit for that. I doubt it would have been possible without you. I don't think so. And as I've said many times, I enjoy doing this show with you, and you, like today as well. I said it off camera as well, and I definitely mean this. This is your show, Food for Thought, and thank you for allowing me to sit on this chair and be part of your show. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm very humbled by it. Thank you, thank you. So I will go on into one thing that I actually have seen, and that was part of the observing and listening, is choosing to be happy and having like a you got to choose it. You can't, and nobody's going to impose happiness on you, right? Like, you got to choose to be happy. It's a choice. And yesterday I was at a gala, and I connected with somebody I haven't seen for many years, and she is a wife of a politician, actually a senator, and he's passed on since, and she mentioned it's been 5 years now. But she's very happy person, and what would seem, just somebody very social, and so we were at this gala, and there's so many people there, and so many people would just see her, and because after the lockdowns and things have gone back to a bit of a normal, a lot of things went on a pause, so the first time when things are happening again for annual galas, and so many people would run into her, and we're actually at the same table, so this is why I was able to observe this, and they would be so happy, and they would take pictures of her, and she was so happy, and she was just running into people all the time, and she said, my husband passed away 5 years ago, and he had started this initiative. I'm following through, and it's a beautiful initiative in terms of having recognition for people who are courageous and all those things. And then she talked about how she has 3 daughters, and the 3 daughters are all grown up, but none of them are married, and one of them is has mental and physical challenges that she takes care of. And then she talked about, and I didn't know this, about how her husband, her late husband, had passed. They were away at a delegation together, and he didn't wake up, and she didn't know. So she was there. She said, it was very traumatic because he used to wear, the sleep apnea, like a machine. I'm sorry, I don't recall what it's called. So she couldn't tell that he didn't wake up that morning, and so she was saying, it was very traumatic experience for her to come to know that what had happened. But she goes, but I choose to live my life and not go through a point of depression, because we worked together, we did everything together. I was right by his side. I organized so many. Like, she goes, my career, my life was helping him in his mission. She goes, but I have 3 daughters, and I have one that depends on me, and so I live for them. But, that was her purpose, and that she expressed. But when I saw her and how there's so many people that she connects to, and she organizes still events, and she does all sorts of, outreach, and with her community is very important to her. But I saw that, and I said, she chooses to live. She chooses to show up today, just very nicely before she'd show up to these events with her husband, because it was an event where I think every politician for municipal, provincial, federal was all there, because they show up to these things and they have their speeches. So this is something that she would always show up with her husband, but she still chooses to continue to do those things, and drove herself, was going to drive home by herself, and and still connect with people. So everything's a choice. And so it was very inspiring because I just kind of took that in. I felt what she was talking about. I observed her, how she's living on. She's living on. So.
Wow, that's a very, very inspiring story. And I couldn't agree more on this one. You just used the word that you have to choose happiness. Yes, you have to choose happiness. You have to design your life. You have to design happiness in your life. Just as you design, your living room, just as you design a home altogether. Very similarly, I strongly believe that we all are co-creators, if I may borrow that word. We're all co-creators of our lives. We're all designing our lives. And when we are designing our life, when we are co-creators, are we designing, are we co-creating, are we choosing happiness into our life? I doubt, I could be wrong on this one, again, this is my opinion, I doubt it happens by default that, okay, one fine day I'll hit happiness. I'm just,
No, it's not a destination.
It's not a destination.
No.
Yeah, it's not a destination that one fine day I'll hit happiness.
That's what a lot of people think, though. If I make enough money, I'll be happy. If I have that wonderful relationship, I will be happy. If I buy that, I will be happy. Like, that's, if I lose weight, I will be. Isn't that what we program ourselves until you realize, no, that's not happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, sure, if you get those things, it will make you happy, but it's like, for how long, right? What are the other things that should make you happy? And that's my first point, was like, please have more things than 2 or 3 things that make you happy. Make it 20, make it 30, make it 50. As many little things as possible in a day that you could experience very easily to be happy.
Yeah, yes, we're wrapping up this show, but you made a very good point, because we need to make a clear distinction between happiness and pleasure. What is happiness and what is pleasure? Like you just mentioned, okay, having a nice car, it's a pleasure. I don't think so. It's happiness, or as little as eating a chocolate. Sometimes there are many people. Okay.
Yeah, you enjoy that, like your strawberry milkshake.
Yes.
That makes you happy.
There was pleasure. Actually, you'll regret it after a time, and you do that, Oh, why did I do that? I put on so many calories. So there is a difference between happiness and pleasure. So you're right. Sometimes people confuse pleasure with happiness. Okay, I'll get a big house, I'll get a car, this will be my career, I'll have money, or I'll have all these flashy things, I'll be happy. No, these all things are pleasure, because clear distinction, whenever there is something which is happening and after a period of time, if you regret that happening or you're a bit guilty about that, you'll be guilty about, eating a chocolate or 2 chocolates the whole night. You were upset about something. What did you do? Oh, I ate 2 chocolates. Or even while you're enjoying, even if you're not upset, oh, I wanted to feel this. Okay, I'm happy. You're enjoying these 2 chocolates. Maybe you have 1 chocolate or 2 chocolates, but you'll regret it.
Maybe you should come up with a list of less things to feel guilty about and remove that, because everything's a list. Everything is your conditioning, your belief systems of what it means to you. And when you're doing those activities, do you feel those things? It's all your own choosing.
Yeah.
What makes you feel guilty is not the same thing that'll make me feel guilty.
Yeah. No, you're right. But that is exactly, if that thing doesn't make you feel guilty, so you're right, everyone has their own opinion.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make you feel guilty, it's okay then.
Yeah, or remove it from being guilty.
Yeah, remove it from being
guilty.
guilty.
Obviously everything's in fine line of balance.
Yeah, you have to have a fine line of balance. But if you're not regretting it, if you don't feel guilty about it, then it's okay. Then it's okay, you can count that as part of your happiness. Yeah. Like happiness, when you think about spending time with your friends, do you regret it? Do you feel guilty? Absolutely not. I think for me, that is one of the best time that I spend with any of my friends. Like if I'm watching a match for 3 hours, 4 hours, you're watching a match for 4 hours, you get together for an hour before a match, after an hour, so you're spending 6 to 8 hours with your friends watching a match. Do you regret it? Absolutely not. That's the best time. It's one of the biggest source of happiness. So when you're spending time, so what comes, you're building memories. Oh, India-Pakistan cricket match. We had an amazing time. It was a thriller down to the wire, right till the last ball. We're enjoying it. What a game it was. So you're enjoying it. You're building memories there. And last thing, since we have to limit it to 10, so you said that last, and I think it's my turn, or
I had lost count.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. That was your 10th thing. But if there is anything more, yes, we will love to listen from you, because you've said such great things today. So I think the last thing is, there is a term which I learned from Buddha ji. So there's a technical term as well, but when I listened to Buddhaji, so that's the first time. I was practicing it a little bit, but then I started practicing a lot more. The term that usually it is uses altruism. Altruism is like, okay, well, I never knew about this thing or there's something like that, but Buddhaji clearly says this thing, that always keep this in your mind and try to practice as much as you can for the well-being of this entire planet. For the well-being of this entire planet. And this thing was, I was doing it, practicing in a limited way, but with Buddhaji's influence, and of course all other religions say this thing. Vasudev Kutum, it's in Hindu mythology, as the whole planet is one family. Christianity says that. In Sikh religion, they say Sarbat da Pala. So we're wishing for everyone. And Islam, all these religions, I'm sure they will have, I think so, they'll have this philosophy. So without any selfish motive, think about, pray for that, and do if you can, and always have these intentions about well-being of the entire planet. And when you start doing this thing, what has transformed in me, whenever you used a very good word, and I like that, and I think I'll be practicing that a lot. You said observing. So when you start practicing, you keep on observing around, and at the back of your mind, you always have this thing: what can I do? What can I do? What is this person? Okay, this person is good. Or can I do something? Well-being. So when I say I'll be thinking about the entire planet, that doesn't mean I'm going to tomorrow stand up on Eiffel Tower and say climate change is happening. Fine, I'm very cautious, climate change, or all those things. But how do I do that? It starts with my immediate surroundings, and it starts with the word that you just mentioned, observing your surroundings and have a feeling that, yes, what can I do? I want to make sure that everyone is happy. And that is a source of happiness for me. I love myself for doing that. I'm really happy when I do that. And I've seen you doing that as well, a lot. I've seen that.
What, observing?
No. Observing as well. No, but you do that a lot, that you keep on, yes, observing is part of that, but you keep on observing, and you think that if I can be of any help.
Yeah.
You do that a lot.
It makes me happy.
That makes you, it will make you happy.
It's almost selfish.
Sorry?
It's almost selfish.
It's almost.
Because I know I'm gonna be happy about it. Yeah.
You could be selfish for making yourself happy, as long as it's serving others as well, right? Yeah. So there's nothing wrong in making you happy.
Absolutely not.
Right? And that was not the initial outcome that you preferred. No. Your choice. You said another word. You said choosing. You were choosing. You were observing how others can be happy, the well-being of this entire planet. Actually, Buddhism says the entire planet. And when I say entire planet, it has to be regarding plants. It has to be regarding all other species, not just human beings. That is what you have to start thinking, that how can, because, in many summers, I won't go outside and sit in my backyard because I was busy. Again, the same thing as I mentioned earlier, busy, ambition, this thing. But now when I sit in my backyard, I observe all these species, they're coming in our backyard. I sit down there observing, I observe them. I said, yeah, these are species. They must have home there. Now it's our home. Look at them. So you feel connected with them. And that gives you happiness. You're calm. You're enjoying that moment. You're living in them. All these things are interconnected.
Yeah. And then make sure you take off your shoes and put your feet on grass, and it grounds you to a whole nother level.
Okay. At our home, there is a place now where I usually practice that a lot. I remember you telling me this for the first time, that this is how you should be doing it, and you'll feel grounded and you'll feel happy.
So amazing. You connect with nature, not asphalt in a concrete jungle. Yeah, it's the best feeling. Yeah, and it's also a way to release. So crying's not the only way to release emotions or movement. Actually connecting with nature through, having barefoot on grass or soil actually is another way of release, and it just harmonizes everything, brings you into so much alignment.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great way, and you taught me that, and I've been practicing that as well. And there's a place in our house, and I usually go down there. I take off my shoes and do a walk on that grass now. And you're right. It certainly has a great effect on you. You're grounding. that way to Mother Nature, Mother Earth, and it releases a lot of toxins and it liberates you mentally as well. It's a great feeling. I've tried that. And you know, in India also, I used to see that many people doing this thing, but wasn't sure how it does affect you mentally more. Physically,
Yeah.
I know there are many people who are doing this, but how does it affect you mentally? It's so relaxing, it's so liberating, and thank you once again.
Good. And I want to actually point out something that wasn't on my list, but I said it, and I think I should, you know, elaborate on it, is that we use the word selfish. I was making a joke saying, oh, it's almost selfish of me. And I realized that some people perhaps may feel that if I'm happy or if I go do what makes me happy, then it's selfish. And so let me be selfless by doing what other people, to make other people happy and not myself. And that is like just not the right understanding of, you're here to enjoy your life. You're here to appreciate, you know, nature at its fullest, you know, whether you're barefoot and experience the world. It's such a expansive place, so much to see, so much to do, so much to experience that. And if you're happy, then you're vibrating very high and you're going to make other people around you happy for just being a happy person, right? If somebody calls you and you answer the phone and you're like, and you say hello in a very happy way, and even if you talk while you're smiling, the other person can immediately feel it, they can hear it even though they can't see you unless it's FaceTime. But you know, immediately you're going to raise their mood, as opposed to if somebody calls you and you decided it's selfish to make yourself happy and it's about everybody else, and now you have this grudge and now you're tied yourself up into this, you know, weirdness, and then yeah, you're going to be low vibration if somebody calls you and like, hi, what, how are you? You know, it's going to give a different, so it's not selfish. I think there's a lot of, sometimes there's guilt, like, oh, if I do that, it'll be selfish. I should just do it for others, or I shouldn't do it at all because the values are, we know how life is hard, and there's no, like, be very mindful of what you're feeding yourself, the inner thoughts, all of those things. And I would, you know, what we talked about and how do you love yourself, that's all part of loving yourself. So I thought, you know, it just kind of popped up in my head, and so I thought I'd elaborate on it. But I do have one more if I have the chance to say.
Sure.
I think for me personally, I think adventure is a way for me to stay happy. And I don't mean adventure like you got to go and like climb a rock, like that's cool too. But adventure could be simple things, like even if you just go decide, I'm going to drive, you know, downtown and go to Cherry Beach. I'm going to do like something like, because you have city life and perhaps you don't go to the beach, but you just decide to do that one day. You know, or I'm going to take a walk, or like what you do. Like adventure is something that is outside of your normal activity. That you know, like most people will like be in a 5-kilometer radius of the things they do, place they go to work, eat, shop, whatever, visit family. It's usually very close. To kind of get out of that routine and go do something that, to me, that's adventure. You know, even if it's a project you're, you know, starting, that's an adventure. Even if it's like a book you're reading and it's an adventure. So adventure doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, you're going to go backpacking throughout Europe, which is an awesome thing to do. But you could have little adventures to just inject a little bit of curiosity and fun into your life.
Yeah, that's. I think traveling and having adventure, this gives happiness to a lot of people. And I know you love traveling.
I love it.
You love to try new adventurous things that thrills you, that excites you.
Even if you're going to like try a new cuisine that you've never tried before, that's an adventure. You know, so the adventures, I think, are very important. That's all the time we have. Thank you for always being part of this conversation, and that's what we're talking about today, which is, you know, the 10 ways, and now I think it would be 20 or maybe a little shy of that because we had some common ones on how to stay happy.
Yeah, and on a wrap-up note, I'll once again say this, that these are merely our opinions. You find out what makes you happy, and sure, try that out. These are our opinions. These are our ways we try to make ourselves happy. And once again, before we let you go, I think we got to say the prayer that we borrowed from you once again, because that is something, that's some mantra that'll certainly give you happiness. Try this prayer out. You know, please forgive me. Thank you. And when we say thank you, we must always remember that this is, when we're saying this, gratitude, because thank you certainly means that, yes, in terms of gratitude, it's very important, as we're discussing our 10 points. Gratitude, living in gratitude certainly will give you happiness. And finally, we want to say we love you. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you.